What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon to some out there. It's the Earthmaster on the live stream here on this Thursday, June 16th. Holy smokes, halfway through June already. 2022 is the year. Latest earthquake shows a 2.0 earthquake into California. This comes after some ramping up of earthquake activity out in Nevada. Let's go ahead and check out this movement real quick. We have seen quite a bit of pressure increasing out here along the west coast. Looks like we got a little bit of activity out here along the Philippine plate as well. We'll check that out here in a second. But some movement kicking up here into Nevada with a 4.5 earthquake coming in here, within about the last hour or so, 16:55 UTC time. So that was about an hour or so ago. They did, looks like, stand by for just a second. I'm pretty certain that they had downgraded it and then upgraded it. Originally came in as I think a 4.5, got downgraded to 3.8, and then back up to a 4.5. Apparently, not for sure why, but it is what it is. Again, this one coming in just about an hour ago. It has been, this area of Nevada has been, of course, months past and the year past. It's been relatively active here within this fault system. The area that's seen a, was it a 6.5 or low grade 6? About a couple years ago now. I believe it was 2019 when we've seen that 6-pointer back here. Maybe early 2020. Can't remember exactly. There's been quite a bit of earthquake activity that I try to keep track of. Can't keep track of all of them. Either way, aftershock sequences continue here for years, but over the last week or so, it's been kind of calm, very calm conditions. So it looks like things are starting to pick back up inland into the North American plate with this 4.5, which struck out there about a little distance northwest of Tonopah, Nevada. It looks like a couple folks out there in the desert did report feeling some light to moderate shaking from this 4.5. And then again, seismically speaking, there's definitely been some activity out there, including the this one right here. I believe that was the 6-pointer from a couple years back. So within this vicinity. So yeah, I mean, aftershocks can kind of build up and go away and build up more pressure and come and go. Kind of looks like what's happening down in Ridgecrest. We see that activity since 2019. The July 4th, July 5th sequence of earthquakes there. Aftershock activity continues in there as well. So a little bit of movement definitely kicking up here along the North American plate today. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, it looks like the majority of this prior earthquake activity was just from yesterday. So we could see this thing really kick up and start swarming again. As far as the aftershock sequences go here around this area of Nevada, we'll see how it goes. Either way, 4.5 in Nevada. A little bit of activity kicking up here along the Long Valley supervolcano as well. Getting a little swarming within the western edge of the caldera at the Long Valley supervolcano. This sits just east of Mammoth Lakes by a little distance, just a couple miles or so. Looks like about 8 earthquakes in this vicinity. Nothing significant at the moment. Looks like the largest one, a 1.9 here outside, like I said, on the western crest here of the caldera there at Long Valley supervolcano. Also a little earthquake within the last hour, 1.0, a little bit further south. Northern California looks pretty spotty right now. Not a whole lot going on northward. The Bay Area, most of this movement from last night. Haven't seen any major uptick in activity there today. But Ridgecrest, look at that. Ridgecrest definitely filling in terms of aftershock sequences here. Now remember, these things can go on for many, many years in terms of, aftershocks. Definitely these two spots here have been pretty consistent with aftershock sequences. Not only those two, but there's an area up here near Stanley, Idaho, where these guys had seen a little bit larger quake as well a couple years ago, and we're still seeing some aftershock sequences here within this area. A good possibility that could fill in, and possibly see a little bit of more uptick in activity there into the state of Idaho, but we'll keep an eye on it. Further down south, some movement along the San Jacinto fault zone. A couple earthquakes here within the last hour. A little bit of activity spread out across the concrete jungles of LA. East LA area looks like a couple earthquakes shaking underneath the ground there. Pretty deep though, 14-kilometer deep earthquake over here near La Habra. Yeah, 14 kilometers. That's pretty deep. Not for sure which fault system that took place on, but it's definitely some deep activity in Southern Cal recently. Let's see, one earthquake out here west of the Salton Sea area within the last hour. No major swarms to report in the Brawley seismic zone, although a couple small earthquakes showing up overnight. Looks like a 1.8 and a 1.2. Sometimes we can get some major swarms going on down here. We're talking about hundreds of earthquakes in like a day period, couple day period. Sometimes these swarms come and go here, but I always have a strange, odd feeling whenever we see some major swarming going on here around the southern extension here of the San Andreas Fault to take heed. But right now, it's just a couple earthquakes down there, so we'll watch this for any potential swarming here in the near future. Pacific Northwest, little activity once again around the Mount St. Helens area. Almost seems like they're starting to list a couple more on the map, right? Let's go ahead and check out the tremor map real quick, and the PNSN network. Of course, this is tremor from last night into the southern section of the Cascadia. 118 epicenters of tremor due southeast of where we've seen the Blanco fracture zone swarm yesterday. Kind of seen some 4s and 5s off the coast here in this area. Of course, plate dynamics and motion tells me that it adds pressure further down south here, which could explain the independent swarming or independent tremor that we see that we seen yesterday. Okay, so the seismic map. Let's go ahead and check out Mount St. Helens here before I get too far off track. And I want to see these earthquakes that they're reporting. It looks like a couple of them throughout the region, and we do this daily. Yes, we always check the Mount St. Helens seismograph station, the recorded data, which is publicly accessible from anywhere through the PNSN.org network. So definitely a lot more active today than the past. Oh, we had a little pause in activity. Seems like about 3 or 4 days of minimal microquakes, and then prior to that, weeks of what looks like today. So there's quite a few earthquakes on the microquake side of things. A lot of them, actually. So the USGS reporting a fraction of them. Let's see what they reported here. The largest one they show is a 0.6 at 0936 UTC time. So 0936 is going to be, well, see, here it is again. These guys, I think, are not accurately picking out the UTC times here. 0936 would put it down here in this region. So maybe that's it. Maybe this little, can you guys see that little speck right there? 0936, somewhere around there. What about all these other ones? There's quite a few microquakes in there. The latest one shows a 0.3 at 10:32 UTC time. Let me double check that. Make sure we're looking at the correct time, right? 10:32 UTC time. So 10:32 is going to be in this middle line here. It's got to be one of these little earthquakes here. That's about the 10:30 timestamp would be right around here. So what are they doing? They're picking out the smallest earthquakes they can show here. A little odd. Come on, USGS. I know you guys can do better than that. You guys have to. What about all these other ones? What about all these other timestamps here and all these other microquakes taking place? We've already looked at the GPS stations for up here in this area, and there's I'm not seeing any uplift or anything like that, so we know it's not inflation of the area, but I think, if anything, deflation. This is the older map. Let me see if I can find a more recent one. This looks kind of recent right here. So see the downtrend here? These are GPS coordinates and monitoring stations there at the very crater of the Mount St. Helens volcano. This is the up displacement, vertical displacement in mm, and there's been a downtrend, right? It looks like we get these little cycles, and that's very typical and normal. But here in 2022, where we're at, see the pink, they look kind of pink dots here, continues to show a downtrend, deflation of the summit, if you will. So, and that can also create these little microquakes that we're seeing up there on the live data, the recorded data. So there is still that eastward trend, or northward trend, sorry, that we're watching. See this kind of taken off to the north, and that could also have something to do with the some of the quakes that we're seeing up here. Northward movement. Looks like we should start to see a little decline here, but we're not. We're seeing a continual trend towards the north of that GPS station. Now, what that could mean? Anything could mean some movement down below, way down below. Even though there's not inflation here with the vertical displacement, it could mean that there's some other something else going on within the region that's making this GPS station move more north than what it's supposed to. So I've been watching that pretty closely here. I'm waiting for a little bit more data to come in on that area. So either way, definitely a little activity being reported by the USGS, but only a fraction of all the microquakes that are taking place here throughout the region of Mount St. Helens. All right, I don't want to spend too much on that topic here. Yellowstone National Park showing little activity here within the last hour. Of course, this area did see a little bug on me. That's kind of odd. Yeah, I get distracted somewhat. Feel something crawling on your arm? Yeah, that's going to distract me. A little activity here around the Mammoth, Wyoming area. Right around the Yellowstone National Park. Let's go ahead and check out seismograph stations there around the park region. And, well, I see it's listed here on the map. Looks like that one right here. Around just before 1730 UTC time. So that's going to be, yep, see, 1728. Just before 1730. That's going to be the 0.9. Showing up here at 5.3 kilometers below the surface. Again, that little earthquake right here, that's a 0.9. So no major swarming going on, but in the days past, about the week past, we've seen quite a bit of swarming activity here in the northern section of Yellowstone National Park. But no underground magma movement. I don't see anything. You know, and these guys are going to be closed for a little bit. I think the northern section has a lot more damage from all that rainfall. A lot of rainfall there, folks. It was just tremendous there. And when all the rain happens on the mountains, where does it go? It goes downstream into the creeks. Get a lot of erosion and unfortunate events taking place there with the rainfall. We could use some of it here, though, in California, let me tell you. What do we got down here kicking off right now? See, activity along the west coast is definitely heightened today. I mean, it's pretty obvious there inland, down Southern California. Now we got a 3.0 near Lamont. This is just outside of Bakersfield. About 12-kilometer deep earthquake. It's north of the Garlock Fault structure. Excuse me. And it looks like it might be close to an unnamed fault system. 1952 earthquake fractures. I think they've just added this onto the map here. Kind of looks like that's where that earthquake took place there. But it's deep. It's super deep. 12 kilometers for this area. It looks like 2 people at least reported feeling it. Um, it's still at automatic status, so it has not been reviewed by someone. But we'll get a little bit more detail on that once that comes in and gets reviewed. So yeah, definitely activity ramping up here along the west coast today, as well as inland. Look at Oklahoma showing a few more earthquakes today. It looks like in northern part, and also out here around Quinton, right, or Crowder, close to Quinton area, 1.5. One earthquake way up here in Illinois. Looks like I'm not even going to attempt that. What is that? Yeah, we'll pass on that. Parkersburg, Illinois, 20-kilometer deep earthquake. Wow. For a 2.5. This is north of the New Madrid zone, which sits down here to the south, but there is some other fault systems that run up through this area. So little activity showing up there today in that region. Puerto Rico kind of dying off, only 15 earthquakes and none within the last hour. South America about the same, pretty quiet. One earthquake out here around the Ecuador area, this one from last night. Mid-Atlantic Ridge had one yesterday as well, a 4.9. The swarming activity we were watching in Iran, let's see if we can get this to key up here. Looks like this has died off completely in this area. No further large quakes to report, but they did see quite a bit of activity here over the last week. About 12 earthquakes or so in the 4 range, a couple 5s in there as well in this area just offshore of Iran. And some spotty activity up in the China region. One thing I noticed today, though, compared to yesterday, look at the west coast, though, lighting up like crazy. We're seeing a little bit of more increase in activity around the trenches here, showing some deeper movement. A lot of times when pressure is super great in this area, things will kind of work their way down deep into the trenches around the Philippine plate, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. A lot of deeper movement today. 502-kilometer deep, 5.3, way down in here, folks. And it looks like we had some activity prior to that, though, with a 5.0. That one was from yesterday. That was a little bit earlier quake, a late afternoon time frame. But this one here is a little bit more recent, overnight. Since then, we've seen some further activity work its way west, and also up here north into the Japan region. A couple 5s kicking up here. 333. Look at that. Wow. All right. Indonesia area as well. This one from late last night. A little deeper activity again into the Tonga Trench. It always comes around, always cycles around here. So a couple different options we can be looking at here. We should see some further adjustment up north, kind of like what we're seeing here today. Let me see where this south of Fiji Islands, kind of a mix of deep earthquakes down here and some adjustment ongoing subsequently after that deep activity up here. So definitely westward pressure trying to find a weak spot to produce some earthquakes along this area. Big Island of Hawaii looks about the same from last night. Only 10 earthquakes, though, in the last 24 hours. Not that big of a deal. No major changes going on to take note of into the Big Island. But West Coast, I think we definitely have to watch this pretty closely with the ongoing activity inland. And like I say, it looks super active today there. Let's see what else we got. Earthquakes Canada map. We'll verify any activity. Looks like a little bit of movement up here. A little bit of in Alaska and up in the Yukon region. Latest quake shows some activity here in Washington. 1.0 just coming in here for the latest quake, but no major activity along the northern section of the Cascadia subduction zone for now. And far as the general activity goes off the coast into the Blanco fracture zone, we haven't seen any further activity since yesterday. Let me show you guys those quakes here that kind of kicked up here. They kind of just came and then they left as quick as they came. Had quite a few earthquakes there, 3s and 4s, even a 5.6 in the mix. There, the Blanco fracture zone. So doesn't mean it's over, just a little pause in activity currently. Let's see what else we got here. Solar weather is ramping up once again, and the sunspots are growing, and they're starting to face the Earth right now. 3030, a couple of these other sunspots here. Looking somewhat dynamic. There's a new development here further around the bend here in the eastern limb. Last night we seen an M flare spark up from one of these sunspots. I seen it come in. Let me see which one that was. See, these guys are showing no noteworthy events, but we did see an M right here, an M 1. Can't remember exactly what it was. It was low grade M that kind of kicked up, very short duration one. Looks like we had some upper C or some C flares as well, but this one right here came in from one of these sunspots that is a little bit further south here. One of these, I think it was 3031, that sparked it a little bit. So there's some dynamic mixing into the polarity of the magnetic fields there. Obviously looking pretty potentially active. And then a couple other ones that could produce some stuff here as they're facing the Earth. We'll keep a very close eye on it. These guys predicting, or forecasting I should say, 85% chance of a C flare, M flare at 30% chance, 10% chance for an X flare. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Sunspot disk here looks pretty active, quite a few of them on the sun, and I'm sure that will continue to grow and develop as we head towards the solar maximum here in a couple years. Looking pretty, right now it's looking good, but I was like a couple days ago when there was like a period of just no sunspots, I was like, what the heck is going on here? It's supposed to be heading towards solar maximum, but then again, you know, we can get these days, even a week or so, where there's absolutely no sunspots facing the Earth. But it doesn't look that way today. It looks pretty active. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. Please stay safe, and like I say, keep an eye on the West Coast. If we don't see any major adjustment over here along the western portion of the Pacific Plate, I'm talking some larger scale adjustment, I still think we need to pay attention here to the West Coast with all the activity lighting up. And also inland here, seeing a lot of pressure well inland into the Great Basin region, Nevada, with all this activity kind of taking hold here of the western part of the USA. All right, guys, have a good day. We'll see you back here tonight, and stay safe out there. Take care, guys.